Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Andy Cotgreave, technical evangelist at Tableau, and this is If Data Could Talk. It's a really special episode. In fact, I have a co-host, Keisha Rose. Keisha, how are you?
I'm doing well, Andy. How about yourself?
Very, very good indeed. Excited to get this episode started, as I'm sure you are too. Keisha's with me because this is the first of three very special episodes where we're going to find out what was going on in the minds of our Iron Viz finalists. Iron Viz, what's that? Keisha, for anybody who doesn't know what Iron Viz, can you tell them a little bit about
gosh. Well, if you don't know, Iron Viz is the world's largest data visualization competition, period. And we've checked multiple times. It ignites and showcases Tableau as well as our Tableau community and all the amazing things that they can build. And we got hundreds of submissions, which we narrowed down to 3 finalists who then competed during our Tableau conference-ish a few weeks ago. And now we're here to dive in a bit more, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Keisha. Yeah, because we're going to see the 20-minute build, but for the first time ever, we're actually going to hear what the contestants were thinking while in their preparation and during the build. So I can't wait for this. I'm really excited. In our first episode, we have Alex Jones. Alex, welcome to the show. Do you want to give us a quick introduction before we hit the play button?
Hello, Andy. Nice to be here. And obviously, Keisha as well. Hello to you. What can I say that people don't already or should already know? I was the 3rd place in this year's Iron Viz. I am a Viz superstar for JLL. And, headline news, I got beaten by my boss. It's devastating, but it's still fantastic to be here with you.
Simon Beaumont, whose episode is coming up next week, not only is an Iron Viz finalist and a Tableau Zen master, but also Alex's boss. So, Alex, here you go. Well, now is your chance to tell us and all the audience watching exactly what was going on during your build. So, are we ready, Keisha?
Oh, I'm ready.
You ready, Alex?
Oh yeah, let's get going.
Let's get going indeed. Right. So here we go. You were given 20 minutes to connect some climate-related data, and let's talk about what you were doing. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this isn't that exciting. I'm not going to lie. This is for anyone that knows Tableau, they've probably seen this page. Well, the less said, the better, really, isn't it? It's a bit clunky, but yeah, just to get things off the go, I'm going through all the formatting, turning stuff off because it's going to make my build all that bit quicker when it comes to all like the sheet duplication and so on.
Yeah, so I noticed you're trying to do all your workbook formatting at the start, right? So that there's less formatting to do later on. Now, the marketing person in me says this is a great, powerful new feature we add in Tableau to allow you to do workbook level formatting. We might come back to some of the messages you have from the dev team through the show. So I'm interested. So while this is happening, tell us something about the data and what you did before you got it here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the data we got from Tableau was pretty good generally. It was there's a bit of data dirt, not gonna lie, but there was a few files. So I did a lot of data prep around, I joined those files so that I could make use of both of those data sets fully. I did a bit of cleanup in terms of, city names so that I could use both files and align those values. And then obviously, not to ruin the surprise, but I used some shapes later, and to build those, nice and quickly, I did all that work in prep, this kind of scaffolding and so on, that I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit.
Did you talk about the analytical process? Did you do all the analytics in prep or in desktop, or did you sort of bounce around between the two?
I think the way that I thought this Viz was going to go was, I kind of did, because I had those 6 metrics that were kind of the core Viz for me. And so to compare them with one another, I had to get them on the same scale. So I did some normalization, which for those that don't know is essentially putting all values high to minimum, between 1 and 0, which allowed me to obviously compare between the metrics, but also when I brought those in to apply the same formulas to transform those into shapes.
Excellent. And now you've gone to Google and you're downloading.
Yeah, this is me just taking a break, really. 20 minutes is a long time, so you get a bit bored. I thought I'd make use of essentially bringing in some images to, it speeds up the whole process. Any time that you can shave off in this build is critical. Yeah. So for me, a big one was bringing that background in.
I think that's a hot topic, right? And we've seen both sides of that conversation. Do you bring in the image with the text and the extra? Do you not? I agree with you though, Alex. I mean, trying to find as much time as you can, bring in the image. Why not?
Yeah, we're building a speed run here, right? And we give the contestants a set of rules, and literally anything you can do to shave time off within the boundaries you can come up with is great. So
that's it. Like what I thought about it from the point of view of like, what does someone want to see me do in Tableau? Drag text boxes around a canvas, or
all day. 20 minutes of text box dragging.
You don't find that thrilling?
Maybe we're a bit too similar, Andy.
I know. So we're about 3 minutes in, and this is the first time you started dragging pills onto shelves. And we are coming up to what is one of the biggest mic drop moments in Iron Viz this year, I think, because here we are. So what's going on? You're building a scatter plot, all very good, and then something ridiculous is about to happen.
Right, wait, there we go.
So, I'm going to pause because what just happened?
So I did a lot of pre-prep work in prep. I hadn't used prep before, but I thought it was actually pretty brilliant for doing this sort of essentially it's called scaffolding, isn't it? Because what I'm doing there is I'm creating a bunch of shapes, and for all intents and purposes, all you're doing there is taking one line and creating more of those lines to create a shape. It's relatively straightforward, but you get this lovely effect where essentially it's built my chart for me. And it sounds really straightforward and stuff, but obviously it's a little bit more complicated than that.
So Keisha, I don't know if what you think, but Alex just said it's really very simple. I took one row of data and used it to build multiple shapes. Now, what do you think?
I used to be a product consultant. I'm a developer advocate now, but I started Tableau as a product consultant, and I've done some of this work, and I would not categorize it as easy.
I mean, if you imagine a square, it's literally, if you had to draw a square, you're doing the same, but using coordinates. So you start in a corner and you draw around that square, and so there's 5 points. You're just telling Tableau where to go to create them.
But there's not just a square. I see a circle, a square, another circle, a line, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Choose those shapes too. What made you go with circle versus square versus the lines?
No, that's a good question actually. Do you know what? I did actually think about it for a long time. The square allowed me to play off the PM 2.5, which for those who don't know is like the really super fine particulate, with like the 10, which is the coarse particulate. Both really bad, but I thought, it might be interesting to see, are they kind of like linearly? I've lost my screen. Sorry, guys. Like linearly related. And so that was that one. And then with the emissions on the other side, I thought it'd be quite nice to play off, emissions versus that particulate. And emissions to me kind of reminds me of a cloud in general. So I was thinking, I'll kind of circle the imagery there that makes sense.
Can you explain what is the glyph, right? I believe it's called a glyph, I think. And so for each mark with its group of shapes, what are we actually looking at? Each one is a city, but then what do the various components mean?
Yeah, so there's metrics around each of the city, and with the data itself, there was a lot of nulls in a lot of columns. So I picked what I thought was the most reliable data that we were given, and of that, I tried to do kind of a cause and effect chart. So we've got the effects on the top, and then maybe some causes on the bottom. So with the energy usage, be that hot or cold.
Right.
So that was my loose thinking about it. The glyph chart, I never heard of it. I just wanted to create something, pretty abstract, because of all the good stuff I've seen coming out of, like Georgia Loopy, Steph Pos. But for me, it worked, and I stuck an angle on it, because it's still visual best practice. So I felt like it worked, and it just kind of caught the eye a bit more than maybe like a normal straight version would have.
Yeah, that's great. And now you had to create a second map here. Was this how come you had to duplicate the sheet?
Yeah, so the kind of pain with polygons is that you can't get labels on polygons. So I had to do a dual axis. Oh no, I didn't. I just did another chart behind it. Dual axis I couldn't get to work, which was a shame. I have done similar stuff to this where I've used other software to create essentially maps where you can do dual axis a lot easier.
Right.
But yeah, that was the reasoning behind it.
And what's going through your mind? We don't normally get a chance to know how the contestants are feeling during the build. So here you go. You're recording a 20-minute build, make or break.
I mean, it is such a foreign experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
I practiced with my Sue, and then on the day of it, when we practiced, she'd been kind of giving me, tips and helping me along the way. And then on the day of it, she didn't see my screen, so that kind of went out the water. So I was on my own. So I think it was nerve-wracking, but at the same time, I practiced it, and I'd like to say I knew what I was doing. But I was just excited to kind of build it, show people what I'd built. I think I think when you're sitting in the crowd, you're kind of like, come on, show us what you've come up with for us.
Yeah. How does the SuVisor thing work? So Sue, that's the SuVisor, that's your Tableau expert assistant, and you had Lauren.
I had Lauren. She's wonderful. She was wonderful. So like the whole thing with the SuVisor is she's the point of contact between Tableau and yourself, the contestant, and then also she's there to just give you that kind of feedback loop and just general kind of Viz advice and technical help if you get stuck with Tableau or prep.
What's something else you just referred to, Alex, and we're playing this on mute, but what was happening during the record is Lauren was supposed to be able to see Alex's screen. So there's all this quite a frantic conversation going on in the background as Lauren is talking to the production team, and they're going, well, we can't show you the screen. And it's like, but he's in the middle of his competition. What are you doing? And then after a few minutes, Alex is just like, it's fine.
Let's get on with it. Come on, let's just do this. We've started.
I do remember hearing that part of the recording, and I'm like, oh my gosh, does this change the whole setup? I was on my edge of my seat for that part. Absolutely.
So tell us what's going on here, because you're going to use that. We've spent about 2 or 3 minutes looking at circles.
Yeah.
Not just circles, pie charts specifically.
You saw that, did you?
I did. I wondered why it was a pie chart, Mark.
Well, so I think the way that Tableau renders it, it's just cleaner. I think with the circle, it's an icon. I think that's like my own pseudo logic.
Conspiracy theory.
I think so. I think it must be an icon because it's a bit blurry.
I love that. That's the kind of thing you only know when you're kind of Iron Viz finalist level. It's like, when is a circle not a circle? It's like when it's a circle, and if it's a pie
that's
chart,
Andy's way of saying when you're really sad, that's how you know, right?
You have my complete respect.
No, it's all right. It's something I enforce at JLL. I'm like, use the pie if you can. So that's why I did it. And then here I am. So when I started building this Viz, I was going to do this really cool thing where I had like a parameter story where you could change the parameter and all the marks would move and create this new story. And so that's why on the initial Viz I had that's why I do those calculations on the pill shelf on the columns and rows, which we've kind of gone past now, but it's cool because I kind of decided I don't need to go down that route. I'm going to keep it really simple. That's what I think Tableau's great at, is like, you've got all this functionality. It doesn't mean you have to throw the kitchen sink at it. Use it when it's relevant. And so I scaled that massively back. But that parameter was the last kind of the last thing that was left, and that was just for the emissions toggle, which allowed an extra element, I suppose, of investigation.
And you're floating your dashboard elements always. I
mean, you've got to, haven't you? I think if you're.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you're at work, I think I have a rule: you absolutely tile everything. There's like I've yet to come across a use case that someone can convince me to do otherwise, especially if you're like handing work over, for example. But when you're creating, something that's designy and you're trying to get a bit of visual flair, I think you've got to flow. It's just.
Especially with the labels this time, right? You had to leverage that transparency with the double floating.
Yeah, and I don't think you wouldn't be able to do that, with the tiled, would you?
No.
But
now, so tell people what's going on here, because I think this is such a fundamental part of the dashboard. Yeah,
so here I'm bringing on. I think so. Like when I made the viz, I was like, I loved it. I really love stuff, and I loved it. I don't know what it was. It was just something that was really eye-catching, and I thought it was smart, but on a deeper level. And then I was like, how can I elevate it? And then I came up with this thing, because I was just looking at it. I was like, how are people going to read this? And I'm like, I would be interested in seeing, like what's, if something's got high particulate, have they got low emissions? That would be interesting. Or if something's got like loads of energy need, have they got low particulate? And so I came up with this idea of using set actions to essentially highlight that, essentially doing really simple buckets, like show me the top 10 or the bottom 10, and then forget the stuff in the middle, because I'm not really that interested in it. And for me, it was just a really cool way of, again, you've got all these tools in this toolbox, but for me, it was the right way to use, a cool tool to show more insight.
Yeah, because we've got links to go and actually see Alex's story, the story he told with this, and these buttons allow you to do sort of turn on and off various different criteria. It's really smart. I did wonder why you didn't just put one container down in that part of the viz, drop all 6 vizzes in it, and distribute evenly.
That is a very good point, Andy Cotgreave. And I tried it, and then I uploaded it to Tableau Public, and guess what happened? My viz turned into a Picasso. Don't know what it was, but it's a shame. It's a shame.
I'm sure the dev team will be watching this
with bated breath,
furiously taking notes. Write that down.
Earmuffs, guys.
So how many times did you practice this?
I finished it the night before, so about once or twice.
Right.
It was a little bit touch and go.
Right.
I'm too much of a perfectionist.
Well, I think that's a trait that goes with this job and being a finalist, I suspect. So we're coming up to another rather monumental moment. So it's going to be a couple of minutes. So what's going on? So now you've got to build. Well, what are you doing here?
Do you know what? It's almost worth like turning the commentary on for this bit, because I can remember I was going to Lauren. Oh, Lauren, I'm smashing it. I'm so far ahead. I've never been this quick. And then I think I just got, over cocky, and then just clicked the blooming wrong button. And I think it was like I think I'd already put the parameter action on, and I think I tried to do it again, and it says you can't do that. And then I just cancelled.
Yeah, so Alex is adding set actions. If you've not seen set actions and controls and parameter actions, holy cow, they revolutionize the power of interactivity you get in Tableau. This is going to build. And then I think, so this is a lot of clicks. I'm sure, Alex, you wish this was fewer clicks. You could be doing it with fewer clicks.
Half my viz.
Yeah, I mean, these dialog boxes haven't really changed since I downloaded Tableau in 2007.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously... It's the same for you, right, Keisha?
Goodness. I'm also just always impressed that you can remember what to add in these lists, like the source sheets and the target sheets. I'm like, how do you remember which ones to add in?
There we go.
And that's the cancel.
That was it. And then you just pressed cancel after clicking about 200 mouse clicks.
Do you know, like, I think it's your fault, Andy. I'm not going to lie. We had a chat many moons ago at one of the conferences, and you told me, oh, do you know what? Someone like didn't finish Iron Viz once, and I think I just had that in my head, and I was like, oh, I just knew I was going to muck it up.
So it's my fault. It's my fault. Thank you.
Well, no, it's definitely not. I was just going to myself, you're such a flunker. You know, like.
So I think you still had 2 minutes left to go, though, didn't you? So you did manage to get them all done in time.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely caught it.
Yeah, exactly. At least you noticed. I think that was the highlight action that saved you, because you went back and you're like, wait a second, where are the rest of these?
I mean, I see it. I still hear it in my nightmares. You know, I'll never forget it. But it's all part of the fun, isn't it? It's that, and that is the beauty of Iron Viz. It's 20 minutes. Don't matter how good you are, you can still make a, you know, like literally the most basic of errors, and that's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like taking part? You know, what was it from realizing you were a finalist to then watching the live show? You know, I'll
tell you what, like getting through to the final of Iron Viz is the best feeling anyone will ever have if they are a passionate Vizzer, because you know it is just, you know, as Del Boy say, the creme de menthe, isn't it, of data viz. And you know, you're judged by not only the community but world-class judges in the second round. And I think for them to, you know, Shirley Wu added me on LinkedIn, and you're like, that's so cool. You know, these people that are essentially your data viz heroes think, oh, he's all right, he's done something good here. So massive buzz.
That's brilliant. And how long have you been using Tableau?
I think just over 3 years, isn't it? Right. I started at the data school, and do you know what? I was the worst in my class. And so if I can work hard and get here, it's an advert for anyone can do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it. You know, we would always just encourage everybody to have a go.
Yeah, for sure. Like, do you know what? Like, someone might be better than you. You might not think you're good at design, but to tell you what, hard work just pays dividends, and you just keep hammering it away, and then you get to the Iron Viz final and you come third.
Which is still an amazing achievement.
Oh, you know, it was never about. I mean, this Viz was never about coming first. It was a bit of something. I wanted to try something new, you know, and cool. And I think
how was it? How was it competing with your manager? And you know, what was the first conversation post Iron Viz like when he?
Do you know, he's so cheeky. He goes to me, right? He calls me on a. Like we have a call on a Friday afternoon, and I was like, oh look guys, let's watch the reveal. And it was you and Keisha, and he calls me 10 minutes before, and he's like, I know you're going to get on a train soon, so I just want to let you know I'm in the final. And I was like, oh my god, that's incredible, like, you know, that's so good. And I kind of played along with it for a bit, and then I was like, well, I'll see you there, won't I? And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, because I'm going to come and take the title off you. But it's amazing. We've got a great relationship at work, and he's just the best guy to work for. So couldn't be more chuffed for him.
No, that's great. Has he rubbed it in since the final that he came second?
Do you know what? He's too nice a guy. If it was me and I'd beaten him, I'd never ever ever let him hear the end of it. But no, he's too nice a guy.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Keisha, have you got any questions? I think I did want to know about the best thing about taking part. I think you've told that.
I think we've come just to the end. I just saw you did some last-minute testing. I think the only question I had remaining was, we saw the other contestants did many different charts. You've got one solid one. What was the decision behind that?
It's just, you know, like, I'm already comparing 6 metrics. And I didn't want it to be information overload. And I think the only other chart I could have supplemented it with was maybe like a scatter. And I just thought, I don't really need it. I want to keep it really simple, and I want to keep it so that it's suitable for non-data people as well as data people. Ask really simple questions, you know, like, is something high, is something low? Show me the answer, so that I'm not dictating the answers. And that instead, there's just a lot of questions that come out of it for further analysis, and to keep the kind of interest peaked. So that was why I didn't put anything else on it. And I love white space and keeping it simple, I guess.
That's really good, right? So I think so. There you go. That I've paused it. That was the end of the 20 minutes. What was the mouse down moment like?
Well, mouse down moment was great, and then I said to Lauren, "I've bloody got those most to least the wrong way around." And then I think I was begging AB. I was saying, "Can I just change that around because it means everything for my story?" But true to her course, she was like, "No, you're not changing that around."
She's a tough one, AB. She's a tough one, right?
It's totally fair.
Yeah. So all right. So you got through. So what I want to do is spend a few minutes just not talking about the story, because you can go and watch that on the InViz final video, but just talking about some of the just the final design and the look and feel. I know.
Sure.
I mean, I've got questions. Keisha, have you got any questions about any further questions about design choices you wanted to ask?
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the parameter toggle that you have. I know you kept with the circle theme, but why did you decide to go with that cute little toggle instead of maybe like the default?
It's just cheeky, isn't it? I mean, it just looks neat. And I thought it was another interesting angle, we can look at total emissions, but what about when you take into account, the population? It's kind of an interesting flick. Like I said before, there was a lot of legacy stuff here where I had a full story where everything was moving all over the place using animations, and it looked amazing, but toned it right back. But this was the last, the kind of relic that was left over. But I liked it, and animations are so cool anyway, aren't they? Even just a little.
And the those little flares that you add, I think they're what elevates. In an InViz, possibly not in a business dashboard, certainly what elevates an InViz entry. I want to. You said earlier on that these glyphs are visual best practice. I want to ask you why you think that, because some people, not me, but some people might disagree with you, right? So, why do you tell me more about how you think a square and a circle in different sizes and angles is a good thing? And that sounds like a leading question, because there is a great defense of them. So go ahead.
No, well, first of all, I love that people are critical about this. I think there should be more of it in the community. I personally love it when people rip the guts out of my viz. But on that point, so visual best practice, well, I kind of thought it was. Everything's kind of following a line. You can still measure, there's still context there, because you've got those sizes. So if you take one city, I think you've got the kind of micro. You can look, you can kind of see what's going on at a general level. If you look at like Istanbul, for example, you can see, there's big emissions, there's big particulate. They're both it's failing both flags for the WHO tech, and they've got kind of obviously low heating and like low cooling, whatever. So I think you can kind of see that from that, and then also you have the macro picture, which is really cool. If I'm looking at Istanbul, maybe I want to compare against Singapore, because that's got high emissions. And so, I think bucketing up, I think someone said something about the buckets, why did I do that? Well, because, I thought that's kind of, yes, it's not a traditional map, but sometimes you don't really need them kind of spaced out, because you've got Australia down the bottom right and then Canada top left. So I thought, well, this is a different way of doing it. It makes sense. And then, initially I was trying to look at if there are more emissions around the equator, because apparently that's worse. Didn't actually pan out, but it was something that, it was kind of borne in mind early on.
Yeah, that's great. What's your take on that choice, Keisha?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, because as you were building it out, I was like, why is, Australia all the way over there and Singapore's over there? But it makes sense once you explain it. It makes sense because oftentimes the spread is either hard to see, like countries that are close together, you can't really see the detail, or they're super far out that you can't compare them together. So I think it's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think the reason I like it, Alex, is because it actually it demands a bit more of the user, I think, to dig into it, and it's the kind of things. And I know you were inspired by Georgia Lupi, and her manifesto is very much about when you get the user, force the user to get involved, they start to contextualize things a bit more and actually get more from it. So that's why I think it's a great choice. because you could have done 4 sets of bar charts, right? But
I appreciate that. You know, like I could have done 4 scatter plots and maybe stood more of a chance of winning. But for me, when am I going to be on the IVIS stage again? I was like, I've got to go big, you know. And every time I open it, I don't know what it is. I don't usually like my Vizs either, but I just find it so visually appealing. I just don't know what it is, but yeah, I loved it, and it worked for me.
Yeah, I think you get the use of white space balances things incredibly well. You know, that's really good. You got the subtle things like you've got these little axes. So instead of doing the full axes, I'm just going to show you a bit of axis because that's really all you need to see. There's loads of little choices there that I think are really sweet. All right. How was it, Alex? Was it good seeing it again?
Oh, I think I've seen it too much, Andy. You know, but do you know what? It's the fantastic opportunity to chat it through with you both when you don't necessarily have that. And especially like you're 20 minutes and then afterwards you're like, I've got to do this 3-minute presentation. I don't even know what I'm going to say. And so it's nice to kind of have a couple of weeks and then come back and sort of reminisce.
Brilliant. All right. Wow. Phew. That just about concludes our time. Alex, that was really fascinating. We have never taken this opportunity to do this before. And, I've learned a bunch. Keisha, I'm sure you have. Mm-hmm. Hopefully watching you have. You've probably got more questions. I'm sure Alex will be able to answer them on social media. So if you are wanting more, I hope you are. We've got 2 more episodes of this. We've got Simon followed by Christian. So do keep tuned in to
boo.
They're all winners. They're all winners. The result is history now, Alex. It's done. Do go and watch I'm Viz on demand at the Tableau Conference-ish website. Links below. And if you want to level up your skills in Tableau and get more involved in the Tableau community, please do. Links below are to subscribing to Viz of the Day, so you can see work like this every single day in your inbox from the community. And we've got links to all 3 contestants so you can follow them and keep up with their work. Phew. Well, that's it. That's the end of our time together. Keisha and Alex, thanks so much for contributing to the show. Alex, thanks for giving us some amazing insight into that 20 minutes. And
you're welcome. Can I just say a special thank you to Lauren, who was my supervisor, who without her help, I wouldn't have been able to deliver this. So thank you very much, Lauren.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Lauren. All right. Well, that is the note upon which we will end. Everybody, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time on If Data Could Talk. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.